The New England Patriots are selling off some prominent pieces prior to the trade deadline, but they still deserve high grades for grounding the Jets in Week 8. Stick around. You're about to be locked in to the Locked On Patriots podcast.
You are Locked On Patriots, your daily New England Patriots podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello to all of you Foxborough faithful. Thank you once again for making Locked On Patriots a daily part of your New England Patriots coverage. I'm your host, Mike DeBate, and I cover your New England Patriots for Patriots Country of Athlon Sports. So reach out to me and let me know what's on your mind on X at MDABATENFL. You can also find our account, our Locked On Patriots account on X at LO_Patriots. And today's episode, folks, is brought to you by Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use the code, all lowercase, LockedOnNFL, to win $50 instantly when you play $5. Pats fans, we have an action-packed show here for you on the pod today. The grades are in for your New England Patriots after a 25-22 victory over the Jets on Sunday. And let's just say things are better this week for the Pats in all three phases. But believe it or not, folks, that wasn't even the biggest story of the day on Monday. Late Monday afternoon, word breaking that the Patriots were sending linebacker Joshua Uche to the defending Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs for a 6th-round pick in 2026. That's right. We say it every single time we take the airwaves here on Locked On Patriots. There is never a dull moment in Foxborough. Never a moment to rest on your laurels. All of this activity needs a reasonable voice to help me break it all down. Fortunately for us, we have that reasonable voice here with us today. And even more fortunately for us, folks, he took his grade report with him. My good friend, columnist extraordinaire of PatsFans.com, as well as being the co-host of another amazing podcast, Patriots 4th and 2, alongside the great Derek Havens. He's my Patriots paisan, Steve Balestrieri. Steve, thanks for joining me here today. Welcome back to the pod, bud.
Oh, always a pleasure, and it's great to be talking about a Patriots win. Seemed like we hadn't done that in quite a while.
Absolutely. Victory Monday, Victory Tuesday, all good here on Locked On Patriots. And Steve's going to break down some of those grades here for us today. But we'll start with the news of the day, really the news of the last 24 hours. And even though Joshua Uche was selected at number 60 overall in the second round of the 2020 NFL Draft, his tenure here in New England just didn't quite live up to expectations. I will say, with the exception of the 2022 season, Joshua played very well, a career-high 11.5 sacks, but his abilities to showcase his speed, his savvy, his athleticism in one-on-one matchups just became too few and far between the last couple of years. And a lot of Patriots fans seem to believe that was because of the loss of Matthew Judon at the linebacker position last season. This season, Judon is in Atlanta. Christian Barmore is out indefinitely. So without anybody up front to take on the double team or anyone around the edge to take on the double team, Joshua found his skill set underutilized. Steve, before we get into the fit that this is for the Chiefs, because I think he's going to a very good spot where he may be able to resurrect his career, what went wrong in New England for Joshua Uche and his fit with the New England Patriots?
Yeah, I think the main thing with him was he never developed into the 3-down player they hoped he would, and he was just a situational pass rusher. And, and like you said, other than, the second half of that 2022 season, he never really lived up to what they thought he could be as a pass rusher. That one season, with Judon, everything seemed to fall into place for him. And we were expecting big things from him last season. Then, with the Judon injury, things didn't pan out again. This spring, he bet on himself. He had a contract for a lot more guaranteed money, but he turned it down to stay with the Patriots, betting on himself. And again, part of it was they were behind in so many games. They couldn't really unleash the pass rush, but he never really blossomed into that guy we thought he was going to.
Yeah, without question. When you look at the skill set that Joshua Uche brings to the table, speed, athleticism, system savvy, this is very typical. This is a very typical skill set when it comes to a situational pass rusher. And when he did have the supporting cast around him to be able to showcase that talent, Joshua was very good. You and I both mentioned the 2022 season. 11 and a half sacks was the career high, but he also had 27 total tackles in that season, 9 of which went for a loss, 14 quarterback hits, 2 forced fumbles. And in fact, during the 2022 season in week 14, he had a 3-sack performance against the Arizona Cardinals that earned him AFC Defensive Player of the Week honors. So this is a kid that knew he had the skill set to be a prominent pass rusher in the league. I think they realized that he may have been a guy that became expendable and also a valuable trade chip. Now, before we get into what this may mean for him in Kansas City, because I do think that this is a good fit for him logistically, the Patriots got a 6th-round pick in return for him. A lot of fans, a lot of media are saying that this is a big-time win for Kansas City, that they didn't necessarily get fair value in return. How would you address that, Steve? Do you believe the Patriots got the best they could get for Uche, or do you believe that maybe they might have left something on the table considering his skill set?
Yeah, to me, I didn't really expect much more than what they got. I mean, I think, judging by his production, other than that one season, in retrospect, looking in the rearview mirror, I think maybe we overrated his worth a little bit.
Hmm,
When I
fair
saw
point.
people saying for, compensation, I mean, he only had 2 sacks this year. I
Hmm.
mean, for uh, what we considered a really good edge rushing guy, it's not very good. And so I don't think they were fleeced on the deal. I couldn't see them re-signing him next year. Um, so it's better to get what you can rather than him walking next year and you get nothing.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's the key point that Pats fans have to remember. When you look at his usage, and to me, this is the telltale roadmap for the way the New England Patriots saw Joshua Uche being able to contribute to the team this year. When you see that snap count start to go down and tremendously start to go down as the weeks progress, you know that it's not necessarily a great fit for the scheme that DeMarcus Covington and that defensive brain trust is trying to put out there on the field. So Uche being on a 1-year prove it deal, he was probably heading somewhere next year that wasn't New England. And in that regard, it weakens your ability to maybe get a 5th or a 4th if you want to try to get some pretty decent return for a guy that does have a tremendous upside. He still hasn't shown it on the field. The last couple of seasons, those numbers simply weren't there. 15 games last year for the Patriots, 15 tackles, 3 for loss, and 3 sacks. This year, you mentioned the 2 sacks. At the end of his Patriots tenure, he's getting 20 and a half sacks in his career since 2020, but 11 and a half of those came in one season. So it's important to remember, put things in perspective, folks. I think the Pats tried to take anything they could for Joshua Uche, who was likely headed elsewhere next year because of a lack of fit in this system. The New England Patriots saw the ability to increase their draft capital. This is a pick that they may not use in 2026. Maybe they package this as part of another deal in an attempt to move up this season or maybe even next season. So it does give them some draft capital flexibility. And at this point, like you said, just be grateful that they got anything in return for his services. Now, he's going to a Kansas City Chiefs team, Steve, that does have a large amount of weapons around him. He does have the supporting cast that someone like Josh does need in order to prove what he can do on the field, and that is get after the quarterback in situational one-on-ones. George Karlaftis is their defensive end, Chris Jones, their defensive tackle. These guys up front will take on the double teams and could help spring Joshua Uche loose, things that we saw him do here in New England when he was at his best. When you look at his skill set, Steve, I think he's still best in a 5-1 alignment that allows him the most freedom to be able to exercise his skill set. But he does have the ability to play in 4-2, play in 4-3. We saw him play in 3-4 alignment. How excited should Chiefs fans be that Joshua Uche is now coming to help bolster their pass rush?
Oh, I think this, for him personally, is a great place for him to go. And Chiefs are 7-0. They're going to obviously be in the playoffs, um, and they're searching for a third ring. And like you said, they have the pieces around them. They have a very good defense. And Steve Spagnuolo is very aggressive. So, I think his usage will bear him fruit. And I think that, he has the opportunity now. He's going to be on TV every week.
Mm-hmm.
So if he starts generating some production there, he's just making himself a payday for, come February.
Yeah, very good point. And again, he's going to a situation where he doesn't have to be the guy. He can be a situational pass rusher and showcase his talents and make that highlight reel. That's what you're trying to do when you're trying to earn a contract, a big time contract in your next free agency period coming up, which is only in a couple of months. So this is a very good opportunity for Joshua Uche to really showcase his talents. I hope he's able to do it. Here in New England, I think, again, when you get back to what he was called upon to do, not just be a situational pass rusher, but I think New England wanted him to be a guy that could come in, help and run defense, help to set the edge. That was never his game. I don't think he has to do that in Kansas City any longer. I think that means good things for him. And Steve Spagnuolo, again, is someone that is aggressive and will utilize him to the best of his ability. So, Steve, it'll be an interesting reaction to what Patriots fans have to say for the loss of Joshua Uche. Some may agree that this is the best the Pats could do. Some may believe that they may have left something on the table. But I think most Pats fans are in agreement that the showing on Sunday was a much better output than what we've seen from the Patriots these last couple of weeks. The Pats were able to pull out a victory, show some toughness down the stretch, and show on both offense and on defense they can get points and prevent points when it matters most. Does our resident professor agree with that assessment? He's about to provide us with his grade report for the Patriots Jets performance in Week 8 when this episode of the Locked On Patriots podcast continues, a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Locked On listeners, get ready to tackle NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Let your New England fandom work for you by visiting FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win with your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Patriots fans, thank you once again for joining us here today on Locked On Patriots and making us a daily part of your New England Patriots coverage. If you've made us your first listen today, a tip of the cap, especially to all of you everydayers who continue to make Locked On Patriots possible. Thank you for doing so. We also encourage you to make your second listen, our good friends over at Locked On NFL. All the major storylines across the league brought to you and broken down by our amazing team of analysts that we have right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. And here today with us to bring this back to a Patriots-centric podcast is my good friend, my Patriots paisan, Steve Balestrieri, our resident professor here on Locked On Patriots, who breaks down the grades and provides the grade report each and every week. Steve, I don't think it's a stretch of the imagination to say that the grades were much better this week than last week. Patriots clearly heard the noise. They clearly heard all of what guys like us were saying about this team all week long, that they needed to show up. I think they also heard the backlash from the soft comments, and they wanted to go out and prove that this team is capable of getting a win when everyone thinks their backs are up against the wall. Let's start on the offensive side of the ball because obviously, Steve, it was a much better performance than a lot of people thought it was going to be, especially given that Drake May went down with a head injury early on in this one. Jacoby Brissett steps in, does an adequate job of keeping the offense afloat. Patriots ran the ball a little bit better, and they got timely and clutch catches when they needed it. Overall, how would you say the Patriots graded out offensively against the Jets on Sunday?
I thought, looking, like you said, at the overall picture, I think you have to like what you saw from the offense. They seemed to, be able to get it going early. And then Drake May went down, and they went into a little bit of a lull there. Jacoby came in cold. Obviously, he had no practice reps last week. And they struggled for a couple of series, but then, I think the play of the day was that punt return by Marcus Jones, because
Absolutely.
it seemed that put a breath of fresh air into the offense. It was that shot in the arm of energy that they were lacking. And then after that, the offense got going. They scored the touchdown after the big punt return. And then in the fourth quarter, Jacoby Brissett led 2 scoring drives in the game winner with 22 seconds to go. And I think you have to be encouraged by what you saw, despite a lot of drops by the wide receivers, and I'm sure we'll get into that. But in terms of overall performance, I mean, they scored 25 points. They could have possibly scored even more. And it was going against a tough Jets defense, and we can't lose sight of that fact.
Oh, absolutely. There were improvements, like you said, and I think Patriots fans need to be excited about that. The tight ends looked very good. The running backs ran the ball a little more effectively when you needed them to do so. But when your wide receiver core is hauling in just 72 yards as a whole, you definitely need improvement there. And when you look at the Patriots offense, whether it be Bourne, whether it be Pop Douglas, whether it be KJ, whether it be Tyquan Thornton, who was targeted a few times and came up with a catch. But again, we need to see more out of these guys. How do you think this wide receiver core rights the ship? Is this just a matter of getting on the same page as Jacoby and Drake May, or does it run a little deeper than that, in your opinion?
It's kind of amazing to me, because when you look at the game, it's not a question of chemistry, because I thought the quarterbacks were doing a great job of putting the ball in their hands, and these guys just aren't able to hold on to it. I mean, I thought probably the best play so far in Drake May's very young career was the incompletion in the first quarter. They're up 7-0. The Jets get pressure on him. He has to go off script. He rolls out to his right. He gains some time, and he delivers a perfectly thrown ball 7 yards downfield from the line of scrimmage, probably 42, from where he threw it. And, it looked to me like a Josh Allen play. I was talking on the phone during the game with Derek, as a matter of fact. And, I was like, that was one of those Josh Allen plays where you just, if you're a defensive guy, you just have to tip your hat to him. But his wide receiver didn't hold on to the football. And they had 6 drops overall. And, for a bunch of guys on social media clamoring for more targets, they didn't support their quarterback. And that's just a fact. And, after seeing so many drops, I'm wondering, Javon Baker was active for the game. He played a couple of snaps on special teams. Why aren't they giving this guy a shot? Obviously, you're going through a game where your guys are struggling. Maybe it's time to let this kid play a little bit, because these other guys just aren't getting it done. I mean, Bourne, was targeted 3 times, no catches. Osborne was barely used. Thornton had that one big drop. He did catch 2 passes later on, but it's not enough production out of your skill guys. I think Hunter Henry is right now the most consistent, receiver in the passing game, and he's the most reliable.
I do want to give some significant credit to the offensive line who, with Vidarian Lowe back in this unit, look to be more of a cohesive unit. They look to play more on the same page. They were negating pressure, I think, a little bit better than they have in quite some time. Lowest pressure rate of the season for the Patriots at 30.5%. That's still below average, but it is better than the near 50% we were seeing earlier this season. Do you think the play of the O-line helped this team down the stretch and allowed them to be able to get points on the board late in the game?
Oh, yeah. When I looked at that final drive, especially, I mean, I thought the pass protection on that final drive was probably the best we've seen it this season. And, you look back, it was just a month ago, the Patriots quarterbacks were sacked 7 times, and, they had 15 quarterback hits on them in the Meadowlands. And, this time around, the Jets only were able to get 2 sacks and 4 quarterback hits. That's a massive, improvement overall. Was it perfect? No, but again, you got to remember the Jets are a very good defense. And, when you're looking, they finally had a little bit of continuity on the field. And I thought the offensive line played much better. I mean, just comparing a month ago to what happened against the Jets to this game, they played much better. The run blocking still isn't there. I know they rushed for 111 yards, but, the majority of them came from the quarterbacks. So that's something that still needs to be improved. But, hey, they made that one big block when it counted for Ramondre Stevenson, and that was the difference in the game.
Yeah, I give a lot of credit to Michael Jordan, who kind of threw himself right into the fray right there after a couple of missed blocks, one by Michael Uenu. And I think it allowed the Patriots to be able to get on the positive side of needing points late in the game and proving that they can get the job done if given the opportunity to do so. Bottom line, Steve, I think Patriots fans will take it. At the end of the game, they had more points than their opposition, and it's been a while since the Patriots have had that 6-game losing streak in this season alone, and it had been last year at this time, the last time the Patriots tasted victory on a Gillette Stadium field. It's always good to come out with a win, but it wasn't all the offense that provided the spark for the Patriots to get the victory over the Jets on Sunday. Pat's defense stepped up when it came to stopping the run. They stepped up when it came to defending the pass. Once again, much like the offensive output, it was far from being perfect, but it was better than what we've seen. Can the Patriots build on this defensive performance to help make it 2 in a row when they visit Tennessee this weekend to take on the Titans? In just a moment, Steve is going to provide his defensive grades for the New England Patriots when we wrap up this episode of the Locked On Patriots podcast, a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Locked On listeners, time is our most precious commodity, so don't waste it scrolling through the same mind-numbing content for hours and hours. How can you spend it wisely to improve yourself? Well, our sponsor, Hillsdale College, is offering more than 40 free, that's right, free online courses, including Constitution 101, the meaning and the history of the U.S. Constitution, Introduction to Free Market Economics, The Great American Story, A Land of Hope, and a brand new documentary-style course on Marxism, socialism, and communism. And all of Hillsdale's courses are self-paced so that you can start whenever and tune in wherever. Plus, you can go deeper with readings, quizzes, discussions, or just enjoy the lectures. Go right now to hillsdale.edu/lockedon to enroll. There's no cost, and it's easy to get started. Don't delay, do it today. That's hillsdale.edu/lockedon to register. hillsdale.edu/lockedon. Listen up, Locked On listeners. When it comes to daily fantasy sports, Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. And what I love most about Prize Picks is that it puts its members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. And when you sign up today, you get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your sports opinions into real money all season long on Prize Picks. Download the app today and use the code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup when downloading the app today and using the code LOCKEDONNFL. Prize Picks. Run your game. Patriots fans, thank you once again for joining us here today on Locked On Patriots as we continue to break down the Patriots' decision to trade linebacker Joshua Uche to the Kansas City Chiefs, as well as provide the grade report for their 25-22 victory over the New York Jets. Our good friend Steve Balestrieri, our resident professor here on Locked On Patriots, providing his wisdom, counsel, and his grade report. Steve, pretty good grades for the New England Patriots offensively. I think the Patriots defense deserves a good amount of credit here as well for the game that they played, for the game plan that they showed, and their ability to contain Aaron Rodgers when it mattered most. I know Rodgers is looking more like old Rodgers than the Rodgers of old lately. Yeah, folks, there is a difference there. I know I'm playing semantics, but the New England Patriots also had the ability to keep Breece Hall in check when they needed to. And I thought the secondary stepped up big time in the absence of Kyle Duggar. So, Steve, when you look at the defensive side of the ball for the New England Patriots, how would you grade out their performance on Sunday against the New York Jets offense?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head. It was good. It wasn't great, but it was good. And again, it's a big step in the right direction. The prior three games, before this game against the Jets, they were allowing an average of 185 yards on the ground, which is pretty terrible. But, against the Jets, they knocked it down to 112 on 28 carries, which comes out to a 4.0 average per rush. So it was good. It wasn't great, but it was much, much better. Breece Hall he's a very, very good running back, and he got 80 yards. He was averaging 5 yards a carry, which is outstanding. But that bruising back, Braylon Edwards, he's a tough guy to stop. We've seen him earlier this year just power through different teams. I thought they did an outstanding job on him. He was only averaging 2.7 yards a carry. He did get that one touchdown when the Jets were deep in the red zone, but I thought they did a great job on him. And, it kind of worked out for him. The Jets did not dominate the line of scrimmage. They didn't dominate in terms of time of possession. And all of that played in to the overall product. They did a super job this time around of containing Rodgers in the pocket. And I know Devon Godchow and a couple other guys mentioned that he was not moving as well as they've seen him in the past. And maybe these injuries that, he suffered a couple of weeks ago are taking a toll on him. Plus the age factor comes in. As you said, the old Rodgers rather than the Rodgers of old. But overall, I thought the defense played much, much better this week. They were very competitive. They had a tough time with Garrett Wilson. So does every other team in the NFL.
Exactly.
So, I thought Marcus Jones did the best he could. I thought Christian Gonzalez was outstanding, especially, when he was lined up with Devontae Adams, who's Rodgers' binky, right? So all of that played in. Rodgers did not have a huge, production day. But overall, I thought the defense played well.
Agreed. They were better where they needed to be when they needed to be. And that's something right now that Patriots fans and the Patriots team, I think, as a whole, will take as a step in the right direction. Pat's defense made some marginal improvements. They held the Jets to 112 yards on 28 attempts, which is a 4-yard average per rush. That's not great, but it's much better than the 185 that the Patriots have been averaging over the past 3 games. So clearly a step in the right direction, but Patriots still allowed 11 successful runs to 4 run stuffs. Breece Hall had a couple of nice runs, but they didn't have any explosive plays. And I think that's where Pats fans need to hang their hat and say, you know what, this was good. The Pats allowed some progress from the Jets on the ground, but they didn't allow them to gash them the way this team has been allowing big time runs to really derail any type of continuity that they wanted to find. And in the past game, I agree with you. The Pats had to pick their poison. What they did was they forced Aaron Rodgers to utilize the looks to Garrett Wilson on Marcus Jones. You knew he was going to do that. Yeah, Marcus yielded some yardage to Garrett. There's no question about it. But like you said, most teams have difficulty when defending him. The Patriots knew they needed to sell out to stop Devontae Adams, not make him the focal point. Christian Gonzalez, I thought, did a masterful job of keeping him in check. And I think that's why the New England Patriots defensively had a much easier time being able to defend against Rodgers this time. They gave him a lot of single looks, and I think it really benefited them to be able to play their game defensively.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the game plan was much better this time around, and for the most part, I thought they executed it really well. That one Jets drive early in the game. I mean, those 2 pass interference calls. The one I still can't get over, the one on Christian Gonzalez.
Yeah.
I mean, it was invisible. I mean, when I watched it, my first instinct was, oh, they called it on him. It had to have been somebody else. That there had to have been a pass interference on somebody else on the field. And then, when they said it was on Gonzalez, I couldn't believe it. The other one on Christian Ellis was a lot closer. But, when Edwards stepped out of bounds, I'm thinking to myself, can that be pass interference when the guy steps out of bounds? I don't know. So that one, was maybe a little bit of a gift there, but the one on Gonzalez was just awful. And that set them up for a touchdown.
It did. And in a lot of ways, this New England Patriots team, had they been soft, Steve, had they been incapable of being able to play through adversity, they could have very easily folded after that, got frustrated, showed those signs of frustration on the field. They didn't. They came back and they were able to take the hits and they kept moving forward. And I think that's something that Gerard Mayo deserves credit for, DeMarcus Covington deserves credit for. And again, I know I keep coming back to Kyle Duggar not being in this game, Jabril Peppers ineligible because of off the field issues. Really give a lot of credit to guys like Marte Mapu, Del Pettis, Jalen Hawkins. These guys are stepping up big when this safety tandem was really supposed to be your biggest strength on this team, especially with guys like Matthew Judon being traded away and Christian Barmore being out indefinitely. Those guys could have really folded up tent and not been able to rise to the occasion. They've done it, and they did a nice job of it on Sunday. So good stuff for the Patriots defense. Again, much like the offense, not great, but good enough to get the win. And Steve, that leads me to my final question for you here today, and that this Tennessee Titans team that the Patriots are going to be facing this Sunday are facing difficulties of their own. Was this performance by the Patriots, offensively, defensively, and even in the third phase in special teams, was it enough to give you optimism, and should it give Patriots fans optimism the 2 in a row could be a possibility with the Pats visiting the Titans on Sunday?
Oh, I think absolutely. The Titans have been struggling badly, and they really took it on the chin this past weekend. So I think this is a very winnable football game. I mean, the Patriots are in no position to take anyone lightly, but you want to see, the momentum that they generated this weekend. Hey, look, last week the coach called them out, and he called them out publicly, and they responded. So they have to be feeling better about themselves. This is the big question this week. Are they going to be able to carry that and do it again? And if they do down in Tennessee, hey, they could string 2 wins together, and that I think is a great step for the team.
Yeah, I think it's a great step for the team as well. I know you'll have some of the naysayers out there, Steve, saying that a win for the Patriots is actually a loss because it takes them a step away from the number 1 pick. But bottom line, folks, when you're a team that's looking to build on continuity and really give you any type of optimism heading into the next season, you want to try to get victories on the board. And 2 in a row, I think, would do a great job for the Pats. I like to quote Ric Flair an awful lot, Steve, on these airwaves. So he always used to say, "You did it once, now let's see you do it again." And I think now the Patriots face that in terms of toughness, in terms of intestinal fortitude, as the late great Gorilla Monsoon would say. This would be an opportunity for them to string together 2 wins. So in the meantime, I want to give a big time tip of the cap and thanks to my good friend and Patriots paisan, Steve Balestrieri, for lending us his wisdom, his counsel, and of course, most importantly, his grade report as he does each and every week. Steve, thank you so much for joining me here today. And before I let you go, my friend, please let everyone know where they can reach out to you, interact with you, and what you got marinating in La Cucina Balestrieri between now and next week when you come back and grade Pats Titans in week 9.
Well, now it's time to do a much deeper dive, on the Titans. I mean, I've seen a couple of their games, this season, but I haven't watched them closely enough. So we'll see. We'll see what the key matchups are. And, we'll be looking for ways that the Patriots can find favorable ones. I'm not sure Drake May will play this weekend, but Jacoby Brissett showed a ton of resilience, and he showed what kind of seasoned professional that he is. And, if he's going to start this week, then by all means, he's more than capable of getting it done. They really need to get the running game going, and that's what we're going to be doing. And hopefully next week we'll be sitting here talking about 2 in a row, baby.
I thought you were going to say sitting here lying on a beach earning 20%, Steve. I thought you were ready to come out with that. We love the Hans Gruber references. And with the holiday season coming up, Die Hard being a Christmas movie, after all, folks, those Die Hard quotes are going to be there. So I'll save that and my Hans Gruber impression for that time. But bottom line, I think you make an excellent point. A lot of this is going to be determined by whether or not Drake May suits up. In concussion protocol, not looking likely, but stranger things have happened. And all eyes are going to be on the Patriots practice field on Wednesday to see how Drake is listed, whether or not he's out there on the field, and whether or not he's cleared for action. It's going to be a lot of questions now for the Pats young signal caller. But bottom line, whether it is Drake May or Jacoby Brissett, I think the Pats have a good chance of pulling out this victory against the Titans on Sunday. And of course, folks, we will now turn our attention to those Tennessee Titans. And you're not going to want to miss the coverage we have here for you this week, especially a crossover Thursday with my good friend, Locked On Titans host Tyler Rowland, which is going to be an exciting one. So keep it right here for all of your Pats Titans coverage. On behalf of my good friend and Patriots paisan Steve Balestrieri, I'm Mike Debate, reminding all of you to stay safe, to stay well, to be the change you wish to see in the world. Have a great day, everyone, and we'll see you back here again tomorrow on Locked On Patriots.